So I'm making this second video so fast because I had a very irritating experience in an official server related to the new loadout and group system. So what I wanted to do is try out the machine gun tactic where I get an M60, a tripod, and put it somewhere close to the enemy base. Then I went to the armory and I noticed that the tripod requires corporal. So I got a car. I traded in my M16 for an M4 because I can shoot full auto with it. Drove to Montignac. Then as quickly as I could, hose down 15 FIA on full auto. I didn't care about team play, coordinating with other friends. I just wanted to get it done quickly. And as an experienced player, I know how to quickly grind the XP. But I didn't really have fun in it. And I didn't really have any incentive to play with others. Then I realized, because of all the loadout restrictions and rank restrictions, the first hour of the game will play like a team deathmatch, like an extremely dumbed down version of what the game should be. And then only after you unlock more things, the width of the different equipment choices allow you to play like something like combined arms warfare. And then I read a comment on my last video from a few hours ago by a viewer called Mr. T360. I'm going to read parts of it. It says, "You say Arma Reforger shouldn't be like Squad, but you have to remember what makes them similar. They're both military simulators. Simulate is the keyword here, and if you're going to simulate something, then it should mirror it. You have squad roles with varying weapons and kits. You don't get to walk around the battlefield with just a sniper just because you want to. You have a specific role with a squad that because each weapon system provides something the other doesn't." Then he says, "I've seen countless other times 10 different people sitting on a hilltop surrounding a point, not moving on to capture because they want to be the sniper." Now I think the whole idea that when warfare happens in a physically realistic environment, that it's like this pristine set of people with their perfectly set loadouts and perfectly composed squads having some type of realistic combat. But I don't think that would be happening in real life. Because after a few hours, depending on intensity of combat, like imagine the US Army and the Soviet Union going at it without going nuclear on an island like everyone in 1989. Within a few hours, there would probably be a few thousand of dead people. And the survivors would improvise on the spot on what they can do. So let's say, for example, you're in Arvel. You just fought the enemy, a lot of people are dead, and the enemy is moving in from the north on that road. Now, in a realistic scenario, the survivors would check their equipment and probably say, okay, wait a minute. Somebody get over here to the armory, get an M60 machine gun, get a tripod, get a third guy, and carry as much ammo as you can. Bring it over here to the road fork, set up a machine gun. But then you can't do it because you go to the armory and you have this personal limit that prevents you from getting more than you are allowed by your rank. See how the superimposed gameplay structure messes up the physical underlying realism. You're not allowed to touch something that's physically in front of you in a box, in this case a machine gun, because you don't have the rank or the training for it. That's what I mean by the whole perfectly loadouts, squads with their perfect loadout and composition. That's a fantasy that if it crashes with reality will turn into improvisation right away. Then he makes a second point about tanks being immediately faced with RPGs because everybody has RPGs. Now here's a problem. That's a correct diagnosis, that's a problem. But the underlying problem is not the loadout system, it's the spawning system. And that's why I made my character conflict mod, because the first thing I did was basically analyze that. Let me open them up. That, let's say your main base is here. You spend all the effort driving a tank up to here. Now the enemy, immediately when they see your tank, they can spawn in a base over here, or perhaps a backpack spawn over here, and immediately, on demand, get anti-tank weaponry to attack right away. That's not a problem of the loadout system. That's a problem of them being able to spawn where they want, with what they want, at any point in time. What the game should have is something at least optional. At least make it optional as a second variant to the normal game mode. We can only ever spawn in your main base. No exceptions, no backpack spawns, no magic trucks, no FOB spawns. Everything that spawns in the main base, and the armory should only be in the main base. So every anti-tank equipment you want to be able to face a tank 2-3 kilometers from the main base is there because somebody carried it there, not because it spawns out of nowhere. That's the two first things I did in my mod, which I think was a pretty good solution for it. And the other problem is that he mentions that people shouldn't like get the equipment that they want all the time. But here's the thing. Well, let me say it differently. Like a few months ago, I think last year, at least 10 months ago, I made a video where I talked about allowing new players to make mistakes. Like, here's what every new player will do in the game. When they spawn in, they're going to go to the armory, and they're going to try out all the cool uniforms, the caps, the different weapons, and they're going to spend 5 or 10 minutes perhaps playing, as players like to call it, Barbie. And some players are so desperate to prevent it from even happening, they will do that. They will accept any type of balancing mechanism. And now here comes the important part. No matter the cost, to the underlying physical realism. That's what's happening right now. I think Bohemia listened too much to people who have like this I call it vengeful feedback. You know, when some people sees another player play Barbie or spend too much time in the armory, they get so frustrated by it that they want to prevent it no matter what, forever, for everybody, without any consideration of what the fix might actually do. And even back then I argued, let new players burn through it. Let them try out all the gear, let them waste gear, let them drive a BTR into the ditch so they learn how to be more careful when they drive it. Let them get a backpack full of the most expensive gear, and then they notice they drop dead in a ditch because they flipped a truck 2 kilometers from combat. And that's how players learn to get better at the game, while preserving the underlying physical realism of being able to grab things that are physically there. Because if you lose the underlying physical realism, you lose everything else, what makes this game special.